When a county government pays out millions of dollars to settle a civil rights lawsuit, the public reaction often focuses on the specific individuals involved. But these massive payouts rarely stem from isolated incidents. They are the predictable output of systemic, structural failures. The driver of these failures is administrative siloing. When one department lacks the resources or mandate to handle a crisis, it transfers that unmanageable risk onto another department, usually local law enforcement, which then bears the massive liability when the situation escalates. To understand the financial scale, consider Shasta County, California. Between 2023 and 2024, the county and its contractors paid out over $24 million in civil rights settlements across 2 wrongful death cases, a $12.75 million settlement in the Johnson case and $12 million for Barbosa. Identifying the patterns behind these numbers is difficult because local records are fragmented. Evidence of municipal liability is heavily scattered across federal court dockets, restricted state court indexes, and localized county claim files. To map institutional risk and liability, investigators must rebuild the administrative record from the ground up. This requires engineering an official records-first relational database. Transforming chaotic, distributed public records into a structured intelligence database resolves administrative opacity. It reveals the true anatomy of municipal failure. The necessity for this level of rigorous data tracking stems from federal jurisprudence. In 2001, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals issued a ruling in Brewster v. County of Shasta. The appellate court held that a California sheriff acts as a county policymaker, not a state actor, when conducting law enforcement investigations. By categorizing sheriffs as local policymakers, the court removed the shield of 11th Amendment sovereign immunity. This directly exposed the county treasury and local risk management pools to federal civil rights claims under Title 42, Section 1983. Tracking this exposure requires a strict data ingestion strategy. The federal side pulls court dockets from Pacer and GovInfo into a central database. The local side relies on public releases pulled directly from the county clerk of the board. The California state court pathway operates under different restrictions. Rule 2.503 prevents the bulk electronic distribution of records, forcing data collection through a narrow, case-by-case filter. Because of these varied access points, the system enforces a strict source hierarchy. Primary documents like court filings, risk management files, and settlement approvals supersede derivative sources like news reports or press releases. A disciplined, multi-track ingestion pipeline provides the only legally defensible foundation for municipal analytics. Once the documents are ingested, the system must normalize data simultaneously across 3 dimensions: the case, the defendant entity, and the attorney identity. Entity normalization is where most civic analytics fail. Local government structures rely on names that look deceptively similar but represent separate legal and financial bodies. Take the Shasta Fair Association. A superficial analysis might group this under county government. Legally, this is a state entity. Suing the Fair Association targets state funds, not the county treasury. Similarly, litigation against the Superior Court of California, County of Shasta, involves a judicial branch entity. It operates independently of the county executive. Collapsing these distinct bodies into a generic county bucket pollutes all subsequent liability analytics. The same rigor applies to plaintiff counsel. Matching attorneys by name alone fails due to varying initials, firm changes, or pro hac vice admissions. To solve this, the system uses the attorney's state bar number as the canonical key for identification, ensuring every case is linked to the correct individual, regardless of how their name appears on a docket.
Rigorous, rule-based normalization ensures that the intelligence database generates accurate liability rankings rather than reflecting variant spellings or clerical errors. With a normalized schema in place, we can identify systemic constitutional violations, specifically patterns of Penal liability. Under the Penal doctrine, municipal liability requires proving that a constitutional violation resulted from an official policy, a widespread custom, or a failure to train. We can see how the database identifies these patterns by examining the historical jail records of Glenn County, California, specifically the Cabral and Contreras incidents. The data isolates a distinct pattern of 8th and 14th Amendment claims. These claims repeatedly center on deliberate indifference to severe psychiatric distress within the jail. By tracking the timeline of these claims across both custody and medical records, the data reveals a recurring breakdown between departments. When county behavioral health lacked the capacity or mandate to assess inmates, they refused service. This forced high-acuity detainees into the care of untrained law enforcement staff. In the 2007 Cabral incident, this specific impasse resulted in custody staff using force against an unassessed psychotic inmate, ultimately leaving him a quadriplegic. The relational database takes an isolated tragic injury and connects it to the broader data matrix, providing quantifiable proof of a codified administrative failure. Identifying a failure is the first step. Measuring its financial impact requires precision, because raw case captions and broad settlement announcements are often misleading. We need deterministic SQL queries to calculate exact metrics. The most critical metric for evaluating municipal risk is county attributable recovery. Consider the Johnson case out of Shasta County, a civil rights lawsuit following a jail death involving a severe, untreated methamphetamine overdose. The headline reporting and public filings for the Johnson case showed a global settlement figure of $12.75 million, but the query breaks down the allocation. $11.1 million was paid by WellPath, the private medical contractor, while the county and city paid $1.65 million. If the database assigned the entire gross settlement to the county, it would artificially inflate the county's specific risk profile and distort our understanding of their actual treasury exposure. Utilizing specific parameters in the schema, like an amount scope flag within the money events table, prevents this distortion by splitting global case amounts by actual payer. Computing exact payer allocations is the only way to generate a true intelligence ranking of which attorneys and which claims extract the most municipal capital. A fully architected relational database shifts civic analytics from reactive historical counting to predictive intelligence. When we look at the final shape of the Shasta County intelligence graph, the pattern is unmistakable. There is a highly dense cluster of nodes connecting the Shasta jail, the contracted medical provider WellPath, and multiple wrongful death events. The system isolates the ultimate financial toll of this cluster, over $24 million in settlements generated by the specific operational failure cascade in just a 2-year window. This data footprint becomes undeniable. In Shasta County, the documented liability and subsequent grand jury investigations forced a shift in municipal policy, culminating in the Board of Supervisors severing ties with WellPath entirely. The county then executed a strategic pivot, signing a $25 million contract with a new provider, Medico Correctional Healthcare. Given the historical liability, this increased expenditure acts essentially as a risk transfer insurance policy to prevent future Monell claims. By forcing strict data normalization onto factured public records, investigators and policy analysts can resolve administrative opacity, quantify structural deficits, and definitively force institutional accountability.